All right, let's watch this video.
I say, don't marry who you love. I say, love who you marry, because that's what the Bible teaches. If you love somebody and God approves of that person, that's good. It's an added advantage. But you may love somebody and God will say that's not the person. You will sacrifice your love and marry who God says. And so you are asking a question, you say, if I don't marry who I love, who should I marry? You marry the person God leads you to. Number two, you marry a person that fears God, that is under the government of God. And number three, you marry the person that is compatible with your purpose. If you find these three, you will love that person. But if you marry somebody you love who God is not choosing for you, or you marry somebody you love who is not under God's government, and you marry who you love and he does not compact with your purpose, after a few years you will discover that that love will vanish. Because if you study love itself in context, you will discover that it will be impossible to really get to love somebody that you have not understood and have not trusted. Because love has three cadres. The first cadre of love is affection. The second cadre of love is understanding. Understanding is superior to affection. If you start working with somebody and you journey for a while, if you can't understand yourself, you will discover that the lack of understanding will destroy the affection that once existed. Because affection is superior to understanding is superior to affection in the ladder of love. And then when you move a bit further, you will now discover that the third ladder or the third rung on the ladder is trust. Trust is superior to understanding. If you don't trust somebody, you will discover that understanding will collapse. Affection will also collapse. And so when you are even talking love, you cannot really explore love in its fullness unless as you marry somebody and live with a person for a long time. That's why God commands people to love who they marry. And it doesn't really endorse who you love before you get married. If you do and God chooses that person, it's an added advantage. And if you have studied love also, apart from this ladder that I've explained to you, there are four things you will discover about love. Because there are four words for love in the Greek. The first word for love is phileo. The second word for love is eros. The third word for love is storge. And the fourth word for love is agape. Love is deeper than a feeling. The word phileo is a kind of love that is created by circumstance. And that kind of love runs on emotion. So if I'm in a place with somebody for a while, because that location kept us in that place, we are going to discover that there are few things that connect us. And so because of that circumstance that is created, we will begin to bond in a way. That kind of love is called phileo. If you change that circumstance for a while, that love will begin to die. Because that love is orchestrated by a circumstance, and that love runs on emotion. If you change the circumstance and you alter the emotion, that love will die. It's called phileo. Friendship operates at that level. And then you have what we call eros. Eros is romantic love. Romantic love is motivated by your definition of beauty. It's an affection that goes in the direction of what you consider to be beautiful. And so, for example, if you consider a fair complexion to be beautiful, when you see somebody that is fair, you will get to develop that kind of affection towards that person. But over time, you will discover that because the glory of man diminishes, a point will come when that affection won't mean, that look won't mean much to you anymore. And ask those who are married, they will tell you. When you get married, you are going to discover that as powerful as sex is, even sex will become a responsibility. It's when you are not yet married that demons are touching your emotion. You say, hey. When you get married, you will know that demons were involved. You saw the lady's leg, you say, Jesus.
Wow.
When you get married, you will discover that that leg can be on your head. You will be burdened. Because eros is motivated by what you consider beautiful.
All right. I don't know where to take this from. Where did we take this from? Oh. Hey.
He shock you.
What do you like the most about this video we just watched? What do you like the most about what we just watched? I'm curious. What do you like the most about what we just watched? And if you didn't like it, tell me as well. Let me know. What do you like the most about what we just watched? And if the case is that you don't like it or you didn't like it, tell me and then tell me why. Tell me why. I would like to know what, like what you like or what you don't like about this. Let's see. What do you like the most about that? Yeah, Ola, we are listening. I know you're listening. Dilo Subway, I was thrown off by it. It didn't make sense. Really? Wow. I don't even myself. I did confused. I get some of it. I did confused small. I was hoping that somebody get a grasp of it. The topic enough was don't marry who you love. That was capturing. I guess like it makes sense. Speak, preacher. Yeah. But let me the beginning. There's some points in the beginning. Let me go back to the beginning. Let me see.
The Bible teaches.
Let me see.
I said, don't marry who you love.
Don't marry who you love. Let's stop there. Somebody's like, Ola, but why would you stop there? Let's listen to the rest of the context now. I know. But to a large extent, I need your sentences to kind of make wholesome sense. To, like, don't marry who you love. The only direct opposite of that is marry who you don't love. Okay? Unless you're trying to trick us. Listen, I'm going to advise you right now. If you are a big fan of Nigerian preachers, you should check out Sam Adeyemi. Okay? And you should push back a little bit against people that tend to say God said, when God said, everything is God. I love God. You can't love God more than I do. Okay? Particularly because I think literally God is love. Like literally. Like that statement is literal to me. Okay? But when people start to say God said, or he's going to make a couple of statements here, I want you to listen a little bit closer to, because they need to tell you more. Okay, that's what I'm doing. They're not necessarily wrong. They just need to tell you more. But check out Sam Adeyemi. You really, if he says God said, he's going to elaborate. He's going to share with you the nuances of that. He's going to share with you some extra context. Be careful with people that say God said and they don't have any extra context around that. Be careful with that. Be careful. Let me play it again.
I say, don't marry who you love. I say, love who you marry. Because that's what the Bible teaches.
See, he said, but love who you marry. Those are not word and opposites. Those are not one side and opposite. Those two sentences are not polar opposite of each other. Okay? It's about, so was he reciting from a book? It sounded like he's read some book. He's using some big grammar. Filio, eronos, erosios, erosion. I know what those things are. Different types of love. Oftentimes they use it to confuse you, honestly. Okay? For me, what you read inside of 5 love languages is good enough for me. Okay? For me personally. You love a person, you're in love. Those are two different things. One is affection. The other one is you're now in a situation with a person. You have to now intentionally build that love. That's the only thing we call real love, true love, right? The in-love experience is just butterflies, okay? You feel like you're in love with a person, especially if you don't know them like that. What do I mean by you don't know them like that? Like you just met them in the last 3 to 5 years, okay? Oftentimes you're married to a person for 4 years and your internal mind is telling you like you've known them all your life. You feel that way. The truth is that No, you just met them like less than 5 years ago. Okay, that's the reality of a lot of young marriages, right? So when you're now discovering, don't be too surprised when you start to discover new things, you know. So loving, like keep it simple, right? Our mind is already so complex. You don't want anybody complicating things for you with big grammar. Okay. So what did he say? It's a lot of pastors do this. They create words and create slick words and certain thing, paraventure, and it sounds like God is talking, but you go home and it's time to practice what you learned, but there's a disconnect. There's disconnect all over the place, right? Because again, you were in your feelings when you were in church. Yes, but can you practice what you learned in real life? Maybe not, right? Let me listen to it again.
I say, don't marry who you love.
Don't marry who you love.
I say, love who you marry.
Love who you marry. Wait. The person you were talking about is not married yet. The second statement is speaking to people that are now married. Love who you marry. Those two, the first one, I don't agree with it. You should always marry the person you love. The second statement is true, but it has nothing to do with the first statement. Is it me? Is this a stretch? Am I stretching this too much? Do you get what I'm saying? Don't marry who you love. Who should I marry, Oga? The person I don't love? No, he's going to tell us more about that later. But the point I'm making right now is that has nothing to do with love who you marry, which is a true statement. Love who you marry is something that we should all continue to work on. Right? Why? Because you benefit from that if you love the person you marry. But this other first one, we say, don't marry who you love. Let's see where it's going with that. Because again, remember, it has nothing to do with the second sentence. Because one is speaking to people that are not married. The second one is speaking to people that are married. Okay? Yeah, but Ola, that's connected because sometimes you just have to vet. As I know, there's no vet. You can vet. You should vet. You should find out as much as you can. But you're going to discover more inside of the marriage. You're not going to escape that part of the work. Where the person you married that you thought was perfect, voila, they're not perfect. Right? That's going to happen. There's no way around it.
Because that's what the Bible teaches. If you love somebody and God approves of that person, that's good. It's an added.
What does it mean that God approve of that person? Does that mean a wali, a prophet told me that God approve of that person? Does that mean I dreamt about them at night and God said, yes, this is the person for you? Does that mean somebody told me before that their name will start with O and now their name is Olufemi? Voila, is that what that means? Like, what does that mean that God approved of that person? That's what you should be listening out for. I don't know this man of God. He might have been saying something that really benefited his audience. Maybe they got him, right? I think he was saying only love is not enough in marriage. Me thinking, yeah, maybe. My point here is that ask for clarity. If you're in a position where you're in this person's audience and they're saying something and something is connecting but you're still confused, ask for clarity, okay? Don't let them tell you God did not approve. What do you mean by that? Remember that young lady that we were just covering? The lady who was finding out what the man wants? What do you mean? What do you mean by affection? Learn how to ask, what do you mean? Like, especially if it's vague, right? Inside of the same church, Christianity church, what God means to people are different from people to people, right? So let's hope he's going to tell us.
But you may love somebody and God will say that's not the person.
What does it mean when God said that's not the person? Could that be just a moment when I'm not feeling this guy? This guy has offended me today. Maybe he farted in his sleep and I'm starting to get turned off by that. It does it too much. Like, why is the whole room smelling of fart? Jesus Christ. Is that God? I know. Is that God trying to tell you that, right? I'm just, again, my mind is going wild because, again, this is the nature of this kind of conversations. Why the ambiguity is too much? What's going on here?
You will sacrifice your love and marry who God says. And so you are asking
you sacrifice your love and marry who God said first. That means sacrifice affection is what he's talking about right now. Sacrifice the butterfly. Sacrifice attraction. That's how I can interpret that. I don't know where else it's talking about, because that's the only thing you really have in the beginning. You don't know what love is in the beginning. There's no way you know. God set it up, in my opinion, God set it up that way that you're able to have butterflies. Right? You feel some kind of attraction to this person. But somebody's telling you, turn that off. Right? Just listen to what God said. Through what? What medium is God saying this through? That's the question that I want you to be asking. How will God tell me? They need to be clear, because listen, it's 2023 and there's too many people that have been deceived by false prophets out there, directly or indirectly.
Question, you say, if I don't marry who I love, who should I marry? You
Yes.
marry the person God leads you to.
What does that mean? You marry the person that God leads you to. I'm still asking, what does that? Yes, sir. Kill me. I can continue. Maybe we'll still hear something.
Number 2, you marry a person that fears God, that is under the.
Now, every woman I know personally, they want a God-fearing man. Some of them are starting to wise up and say, "Oh, that God-fearing man." Some of these narcissists, they are in church. Some of them are starting to say that. Some of them are you guys listening to me right now. All right. So again, what do you mean, sir? Kill me.
Government of God. And number 3, you marry the person that is compatible with your purpose. If you find these 3, you will love that person.
So usually younger people, especially people less than 30 years of age, they haven't found their purpose. So a person compatible with their purpose, that ends up in a poto for the majority of the time. No, they might even tell you they know what they want, but that changes over time. When you get to 33, 35, you're like, that's not what I wanted. I wanted to go this direction. You're still trying to find your purpose. This is real life. Right? But can the man of God kind of like had those nuances so that we can apply the preaching we're hearing to real life on Monday through Saturday? That's all I'm asking pastors to do. There are only 2 pastors that I think come close to this ever. Well, 3 now, because I know Dr. Shola is on that page. But we have Sam Adeyemi. Kini is a little bit slow, too inspirational sometimes, but he's on that page too. Joel Osteen. I'm sure there are many other out there like that are practical. They can they can open up the conversation. They're not in a rush to just preach at you to make you feel jim, and then you're confused during the week.
But if you marry somebody you love, who God is not choosing for you, or you marry somebody you love who is not under God's government, and you marry who you love and he does not compact with your purpose, after a few years you will discover that love will vanish. Because if you study love itself in context,
for every one of us, whatever that butterfly you felt in your stomach in the beginning, which you need to feel, that's you need to feel it. Okay, you need to feel attraction. Okay, that's the truth. Okay, if you listen, you live in a society, we're socialized a certain way. If you're going to swim against the trend, make sure you set up new rules, because if you don't have new rules, you're trying to operate with the stupid rules in a society of people, it won't work. Okay, you have to know that this person is attracted to you sexually, okay, before you move any forward. Because even if he dies off, he says he's telling the truth where he says to die off. If he died off, you knew that there was something there before. When you guys now start to build some solid foundation as you're going through that journey, add more again. But if it was never there in the first place, there's a good chance it will never happen. Why? Because we don't live in 1970. Okay? We don't. We just don't. Don't let anybody catch you. So listen, if you're young enough, this guy's not going to get you. If you're becoming a man or woman of a certain age, you're like looking for answers, and then you start to overcomplicate things. If you notice, a lot of things he's saying is just words, just a bunch of big words, right? And at the end of it, you were just confused. At least those people that spoke up, you were just like, what exactly is it? Fellatio, filatio, filio. It's like kilo de shogunla yeni. Things have been complicated. right? Things are getting way too complicated. The human mind is already complex. There's no need for you to be engaging stuff. Keep it simple. Go back to your parents that are still married for the past 60 years. They didn't get everything right, but there's something they know. Let them break it down to simple words for you instead of fellatio, herocious, ekiniko, day. Everything is so complicated for these people.
You will discover that it will be impossible to really get to love somebody that you have not understood and have not trusted. Because love has three kedars. The first kedar of love is affection. The second kedar of love is understanding. Understanding is superior to affection. If you start working with somebody and you journey for a while, if you can't understand yourself, you will discover that the lack of understanding will destroy the affection that once existed. Because affection is superior to understanding.
He's right about that.
Understanding is superior to affection in the ladder of love. And then when you move a bit further, you will now discover that the third ladder or the third rung on the ladder is trust. Trust is superior to understanding. If you don't trust somebody, you will discover that understanding will collapse. Affection will also collapse.
Agreed.
And so when you are even talking love, you cannot really explore love in its fullness unless as you marry somebody and live with a person for a long time. That's why God commands people to love who they marry. And it doesn't really endorse who you love before you get married.
Okay, so you see, I said it. I think he's trying to say something. I agree so far right now, okay? But those two first sentence was like, why? Don't marry who you love. That's the title. Please, the title, disregard the title. Listen, there's going to be some titles here. Let me say this to you. Obviously, you know the titles are the conversation we're having, okay? If it triggered you, I'm sorry, so be it. Because we need to have the conversation, right? Don't marry who you love. Oh God, what do you mean? I need you to ask yourself the question, what do you mean? Don't marry who you love. Like, elaborate, right? That's the point of the conversation. You see where we're getting at right now? And then the next sentence is like, marry who you love. Yeah, we know that, but what does that have to do with the first sentence? Okay, so now you have people getting into marriage with people that they never had any type of feelings for, and they expect to create a miracle from that. Why? Because the pastor said, marry who God said, and the pastor was the person that God was using as a medium. Be careful. Be very, very careful.
If you do and God chooses that person, it's an added advantage. And if you have studied love also, apart from this ladder that I've explained to you, there are 4 things you will discover about love. Because there are 4 words for love in the Greek. The first word for love is phileo.
Oh, this part.
The second word for love is eros. The third word for love is storge. And the fourth word for love is agape.
Agape.
Love
agape is God's love.
The word phileo is a kind of love that is created by circumstance.
You can listen. I'm not going to go through that again. You can learn this stuff if you want to learn it. I think they're cool. They're cute. When it comes to practice, they're usually useless. It's just another way for people to manipulate their partner. It's usually one person that's engaged in that conversation. The other person like, you don't so. Let's so. And it can be quick so I and sorrow. I feel and sorrow kini and sorrow I feel kiniko. I beg, leave that thing alone. Let's leave that thing alone. Let's get to the last and the best of this session today. I'll be right back.